Tantor Audio, a division of recorded books, presents The Mission of God, Unlocking the Bible's Grand Narrative by Christopher J.H. Wright, narrated by Michael Page. Publisher's note: this audiobook refers to figures and tables included in the print and e-book editions of the book. Preface. What are you working on at the moment? It has been hard to give a straight answer to this common question during the past few years I have been working on this book. A book on the Bible and mission has been my usual reply, but I have never been sure which of the two words to put first. Am I seeking to understand Christian mission in the light of the Bible, or to understand the Bible in the light of God's mission? Or, in phrases that are explained in the introduction, is this book a biblical theology of mission or a missional reading of the Bible? I think the final product is probably a bit of both, but with more emphasis on the second. Many others have produced fine and comprehensive works establishing a biblical foundation for Christian mission. My major concern has been to develop an approach to biblical hermeneutics that sees the mission of God and the participation in it of God's people as a framework within which we can read the whole Bible. Mission is, in my view, a major key that unlocks the whole grand narrative of the canon of Scripture. To that extent, I offer this study not only as a biblical reflection on mission, but also, I hope, as an exercise in biblical theology. Books that offer a biblical theology of mission typically have an Old Testament section and then a usually much larger New Testament section. Then, in each section, and especially in the second, they tend to examine different parts of the canon or isolate the mission theology of particular authors, such as each Gospel writer, the Apostle Paul, and so on. My approach has been rather different. I have tried to identify some of the underlying themes that are woven all through the Bible's grand narrative, themes that are the foundational pillars of the biblical worldview and therefore also of biblical theology: monotheism, creation, humanity, election, redemption, covenant, ethics, future hope. In each case, I have then tried to pay full attention to their Old Testament roots before moving through to see the New Testament development, fulfillment, or extension in each case. Most of the chapters therefore include reflections drawn from both Testaments, sometimes moving backward and forward between them. Since my own field of special interest has been the Old Testament for more than 30 years, it is inevitable that much more space and much greater depth of discussion has been accorded to Old Testament texts and themes. There was a time I thought the book would be simply an Old Testament theology of mission, and there are few enough good models of that genre. However, I write as a Christian theologian, and while I endeavor to read and listen to the Old Testament with its own integrity and on its own terms, I cannot fail to read it also as a Christian. And, as I understand it, that means that I read it in submission to the one who claimed to be its ultimate focus and fulfillment, Jesus Christ, in the light of the New Testament scriptures that bear witness to him and in relation to the mission he entrusted to his disciples. If, in the end, however, there is a lot more of the Old Testament than of the New in this book, I suppose I can at least claim that the same is true of the Bible, after all. Since my main aim has been to argue for a missiological reading of biblical theology, I have not felt it necessary to devote acres of space to footnotes documenting all shades of scholarly exegesis or critical analysis of all the texts I have referred to. For certain key texts that are of pivotal importance in my argument, I have sought to present adequate exegesis and documentation. In many other cases, scholars or students who wish to pursue such issues in commentaries and journals will know where to look. All authors know the debt they owe to others in the formation of their own thoughts and perspectives. So I offer my hearty thanks to a host of people who have walked this road with me for longer or shorter stretches. These include 2 decades of students at the Union Biblical Seminary, Pune, India, and All Nations Christian College, England, who shared my developing efforts to relate Bible and mission through more classes than any of us care to remember, and many of whom are still wrestling with the issues.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?